Rasulullah at the beginning, he said, I forbid you from visiting the graves, because don't go and visit a graveyard so you tell each other we have more numbers than the rest of you. When you come visit, when he went to Medina, he said, I used to forbid you from visiting the graves. Now, I recommend you to visit the graves, for they, number one, purify the heart. First reason we come to a graveyard, to purify our hearts. Why? Because sometimes this heart actually will lead you to thinking you're going to live on this earth forever, isn't it? How many of you went through that period where your heart tells you, I'm going to be alive till the age of 70, 80, I'll become religious at about the age of 59, you know, and the heart actually leads you towards that type of thinking. It's like, you know what, we're going to live here forever. So you should plan from now that you enjoy this world, and then one day, when your own time, you'll become religious. And how many times in your own communities will you hear this from people? That, you know what, at the moment I'm not ready yet, but the certificate that I got from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said I'm going to live till 87, so inshallah I will be ready at 86 and I will change. Sometimes you hear people, their heart actually leads them to thinking they're going to be alive forever. Why we come to visit is because subhanallah, you look around you and you see people who are, say, 6 years old, 7 years old, and there are people here who are buried who are 25 years old, and there are some who are 95 years old. Alexander the Great came to a graveyard one day, and he focused on the fact that it's not about how many years you've lived. He saw the whole graveyard. There's people who are buried who are 3 years old, 4 years old, 3 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. So he said to the head of the graveyard, he said, subhanallah, is this a graveyard for kindergarten? As in, is there all nursery kids who are buried here? The person said, no. He said, but everyone's got on their tombstone 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. He said, we don't write how many years they lived. We write how many years they truly worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes here what you will see is that on the graveyard, on the tombstone, it says 85 years. But if all of us were to pass away today, hands on our heart, how many of those years could we say truly were worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because if I became religious last year, it's been a year. And if I became religious 10 years ago, it's been 10 years. So do I deserve to have 80 or 10? Do I deserve to have 60 or 1? That's what it comes down to. So Rasulullah then, in Medina, Rasulullah established what is known as Jannat al-Baqi'. Jannat al-Baqi' was a whole land of trees. They were all, you know, it's a big, big land, nowhere as big as this, but it was a big land of trees called the Lycium Shawi trees. And so he purchased that land, and when he purchased it, he ordered that our dear and loyal ones should be buried here. And so you had from the Muhajirun, you had Uthman ibn Maz'un buried there, from the Ansar, you had As'ad ibn Surara, and you had, for example, Ruqayya, the stepdaughter of the Prophet, being buried there. And Rasulullah would go in the middle of the night, Aisha narrates, in the middle of the night he'd go and visit the people of Jannat al-Baqi', and he'd talk with them. Ya Rasulullah, they are dead. Who are you talking to? He said, they can hear me better than you can hear me. Their bodies, yes, are dead, but their souls are alive. And that's why in Salah we say, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi, knowing that salam has to be replied to. It means that we believe he replies back to our salam. And Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the Imam of the Hanbali school, has a hadith where he even goes further in saying that Rasulullah says, every week the scroll of your deeds are passed to me. And when you send your salams to me, I reply back to your salam. In other words, those who have passed away, they are in a position which Allah has given them, where their bodies may die but their souls are alive. Look, when you dream, brothers and sisters, when you dream, what happens? Why do they say barzakh is like dreaming? When I'm dreaming, my soul leaves my body, isn't it? I know that the body is present on the bed, but the soul has left the body. So if you want to understand that world, yes, their souls are moving, but their bodies are with them, until they're rejoined together. Rasulullah will go on further by saying, whoever visits me is as if they have visited Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever visits me, they will receive intercession on the day of judgment. And then the hadith would continue to stress to us that number one, visitation of the graves purifies the heart. Number two, it reminds you of death. All of you know the story, Bahlul and Harun al-Rashid. Harun al-Rashid, Bahlul says to him, give me the keys to the prisons of Baghdad. Bahlul, when he says to Harun al-Rashid, give me the keys to the prison of Baghdad, Harun al-Rashid says to him, why do you want the keys to the prison? He said, just give them to me, I just want to play with them. An hour later, the guards of Harun al-Rashid come. And they say, Harun, Harun, thinking, who's done this? Bahlul's got the keys. Where is Bahlul? He said, Bahlul's in the graveyard. Went to the graveyard, saw Bahlul sitting. Bahlul, did you release them? Yes, I did. And Bahlul was crying and crying. How dare you, Bahlul? I told you not to release them. He said, I'm really sorry. Is there any way you can forgive me? He said, yes. Bring them all back into the prison, I'll forgive you. He said, very well, let's stay in this graveyard, because there'll be a day when all of them will come back here. There'll be a day when we all come back, where? Towards the graveyard. So this is an understanding of why we come to visit these holy sites, from the Quran, from Hadith, and from a spiritual perspective, where you purify your heart to ask yourself, how many years has this heart truly worshipped Allah? And also to purify us in remembering that there's a day when all of us will go under the ground and have to answer for everything that we did above the ground. Pass on Sheikh Halid to give us a background of Prophet Ishaq.